ancient magical ritual. A pair of nameless Varangur mages have formed a mage's conclave, but something has gone slightly askew in their ritual. You see, they're missing a vital ingredient for the spell, which has left them, invisible. Now, they know that they dropped that priceless, valuable ingredient somewhere around this landscape, which has actually started to crumble as a result of those magical energies, and they're going to stop at nothing to retrieve them. However, all this magical energy has, of course, caught the attention of the goblins, who have come down from their mountain homes. They've trampled the snow down, which isn't going to last long in this very, very hot climate. It's surely going to melt very shortly, but they are also going to be on the lookout for any magical artefacts that may have caused such devastation to the landscape. That, of course, means that we have the Occupy scenario right here. So we have some secondary objectives around the middle of the table. This one is dead in the centre. There is one here, and there's another one on the other side of the woods there. Holding those at the end of the game will bring in 1 victory point. There are also some very primary objectives where there is a lot of suspicion regarding what kind of magical artefacts could be there. So this one here, under this goblin unit, to the Varangur, that one will be worth 2 if they hold that at the end of the game. For the goblins, it'll be worth nothing, because they're not particularly suspicious of that particular site. And over here, in a very unguarded area, the Varangur have left this area of great interest to the goblins completely unguarded. So, let's go through the forces, shall we? So, what do we have over here?
So we have a Horde of Fallen with a Brew of Strength, with our nice glaive there. We have a Scald with the Loot of Insatiable Darkness. We have another Horde of Fallen with the Helm of the Ram. Back here we have a Troop of Tundra Wolves. We have a Regiment of Mounted Sons with the Magwar's portion of the Caterpillar. A Troop of Horse Raiders with bows. We have the Bloodsworn, a Regiment of Bloodsworn with Healing Brew. They've also dropped their shields for 2-hand weapons, giving them Crushing Strength 2. We have Warband, who have also dropped their shields to gain Crushing Strength 1. We have a Magus with a Familius and Inspiring Talisman. We have an Invisible Nameless Mage's Conclave with a Familius to give it Elite. We have a Troop of Horse Raiders, and then we also have a Proxy Herger at this moment in time.
And at this end of the Varangur army, we have nothing. On the side of the goblins, starting on this flank, we have a regiment of Fleabag Riders with Helm of the Ram. Behind them, we have a Troll Horde, and this one has the Brew of Courage. We have a Troll Bruiser with the Blade of Slashing, and we have another Troll Horde, this one with Dwarven Ale. Just in front of them, we have a troop of Fleabag Sniffs. Moving along, we have 2 characters here. We have a mounted Wiz with Weakness, and we have a mounted Flaggit with the Holy Hand Grenade. On this hill, we have a horde of Spitters, and next to them we have a Wiz with the Inspiring Talisman. We have at the back there a Mincer, just behind a regiment of Trolls that have the Mace of Crushing. We have a troop of more beasts. Then we have a War Trombone. We have a big Rock Thrower, a Giant, and more beasts. And over on this flank, not very populated, we only have a troop of Fleabag Rider Sniffs and another Flaggit, this one with the Diadem of Dragonkind. So we're going to have the roll off for the choice of first turn now. Here we go. Oh, it's a 5 and a 3, so the goblins are going to get to choose. The goblins elected to allow the Varangur to go first, being polite, as goblins are generally. And there's been quite an advance. Not full speed across the table, but there's kind of a pincer shape you can see there that's formed in the direction of this very crucial objective that they would very much like to get their hands on. And then there was a plethora of shooting attacks fired out from the various mages and shooty horseman units that mostly just landed onto the Spitters and inflicted 6 damage, but they are not wavered. Then down here, 1 damage was put onto the Moorbeasts, which was actually enough to waver them, because they don't have very high nerves. That giant is just getting a bit cheesed off now behind them. But luckily I don't think he could have been charging anyone regardless. So we're going to go into the Goblin turn 1 now to see if they can strike back, mostly with shooting I imagine, because all these units down here mostly have positioned themselves just out of charge range of the Fleabags on this flank. Goblin turn 1, and the lone advance really is these Moorbeasts. They've gone pretty damn far compared to everything else. Giant and Trolls just lying in waiting here. These Moorbeasts obviously couldn't go anywhere. Over on this flank, there's been a bit of an advance. sweeping onto the flank there, looking down onto those Varangur forces there for the Fleabag Rider Sniffs and this Flaggit, who couldn't get into range to use his ranged attack, so he's just chilling behind the house. Over here, there was lots of pondering whether charges should be made into the wolves, but in the end, just the Sniffs moved up a bit, just to screen the trolls, and everything else is kind of poised. It's a bit of a standoff. The Goblins have a slight speed edge, but, of course, the Varangur have more hard-hitting speed on their side with the Fallen. So then, as far as shooting went, lots of damage was spread out across multiple units, but not a significant amount on any particular unit. These wolves took 2, and they've become wavered as a result of that. These horse archers took 2, the others at this end took 1, and in the middle here, these knights took a big rock to the face, direct hit, so they took 4 damage from that, and then 2 was put onto this unit here, the Bloodsworn. So bits of damage sprinkled all the way across the line, but only 1 waver, that being the wolves. And we're going to be heading into Varangur turn 2 now. There are some charge possibilities, but most of them are at quite obvious bait units, which just park themselves on their own in front of the lines. So we're going to see if they can resist that blood scent in the air, or whether they're just going to throw themselves in willy-nilly. So we've completed the movement and shooting of Varangur turn 2. So before we go on to combat, let's have a look at the state of play here. So the knights have charged into the Fleabag Sniffs down here. The warband have charged into these Moorbeasts here. And then lots of shooting was laid down, and you can see that the Spitters have been annihilated. They are toast after taking shots from numerous units. Over here, this unit, Fleabag Sniffs, took a couple of damage, and that was enough to waver them as well, which isn't fun at all. And the Trombone has also gone. That took a few damage points, and it's toast. And you'll notice here that Herger has charged into the flank of the Mincer, so that might not end well for the Mincer very shortly. And so we've got those 3 combats to do, and then we'll come back with the results of that in a moment. Okay, in the combat phase, Herger completely obliterated the Mincer, just chopped it up into a million pieces, and they're going to have some nice firewood now. In the middle, the Moorbeasts took 5 damage, and they have become wavered as a result of that. And over at this end, you can see that the Fleabag Sniffs, of course, died from the charge of the Knights, and they've opened up that area now. So, going into Goblin turn 2, and I suspect there are going to be some Goblin charges now for the first time in this game. Just prior to the Goblin combat phase in turn 2, and you can see lots of charges have been declared. Over here, the Fleabags have made a hindered charge into the Fallen. Down here, the Trolls and the Troll Bruiser have gone into the Knights. Over here, there's a bit of a convergence of all the small, annoying shooting attacks around Herger, but they only managed to do 2 damage, one of which came back as a result of the nerve check being passed. So it would have been nice if the Trombone had been alive to contribute to that, but they included a hit from the Holy Hand Grenade, which is down here. In the centre, the Trolls and the Giant have both charged into these units here, and not much going on at this end because this unit was wavered, so there's nothing they could really do. And we're going to go into the combat phase now. We've got several of them, and with some nice rolls, could maybe clear out a couple of units here. We shall see. Could do with killing something. Well, the Goblin combat phase. Let's start here with a slightly less successful one. So, the Fleabags actually did a couple of damage points to these Fallen, but of course with the Iron Resolve they got one of those back. So, they're just quite happy there, chilling. The same can't be said for the Knights that were double charged. They were annihilated by this big blob of trollage parked right here. Speaking of troll damage, these ones took out the Horse Archers as well. So there's 2 units dead. And here the Giant could only put 6 damage onto these guys, so they're alright. And that was it as far as combat goes. So we're going to be going into the Varangur turn 3. There's a lot of charges open, so we're going to see which ones they take. It's getting juicy at this stage. Partway through the Varangur turn 3, and you can see charges aplenty. Double charge from the Wolves and the Fallen into this Troll Horde. The Fleabags have taken the furious countercharge of those Fallen. And over here, we've got a charge into the small Troll unit in the front. And in the flank with some sneaky shenanigans there, so they've managed to get in as well. That Troll unit might not be long for this world under those circumstances, but you never know. And then in the shooting phase, the Giant didn't take any damage. These Moorbeasts took a little bit and they became wavered, and exactly the same story over here for these Fleabag Sniffs. So lots of wavering going on in the small chaff units, but they're still alive, so that could be annoying come the end of the game. And Herger has gone straight into the big rock thrower. It's landed twice so far in 2 turns, so she's had enough of seeing her fallen brethren, her comrades in arms, being hit by rocks to the face. So she decided it's time to chop that thing into fine little pieces like she did with the Mincer. So a mixed bag for the Varangur in the combat phase. Over here, these Fallen with their countercharge wiped out the Fleabag Riders with relative ease. Here it didn't go quite so well, so as you can see this Troll unit with the Dwarven Ale only got wavered, so 50-50 chance they're going to be able to declare a countercharge, despite taking 11 damage. And over here, this Troll unit was obliterated as well by the double charge, and now those two units just turn to face the Giant, so hopefully I can get some charges in there. And that's it. So, heading into the Goblin turn, there's going to be some charges declared regardless, but hopefully these guys will chug that ale, and they'll get some renewed courage. Partway through Goblin turn 3, charges were declared. These Trolls will be hindered, the Bruiser will not, in this double charge on the Fallen. So they're going to have to kill them though, because otherwise the Wolves will have a juicy rear charge there. Because these Trolls, the Dwarven Ale didn't pay off, it just got them a little bit more drunk. Although they did manage to regenerate some of their wounds back, so they just backed away a bit, so they're not going to get flank charged. Over here, the various tiny annoying shooting attacks position themselves to direct their attacks at the Fallen. But they didn't do enough damage to really worry them, and when they passed the nerve check they got wound back as well. Here you can see the Maulbeasts and the Giant have both declared charges here, so hopefully at least one of those units will become toast. And over here, the Diadem of Dragonkind wielding Flaggett ran into the field, and then he scorched those Varangur horse archers to death. So they are gone, which makes it a little sparse for the Varangur on this flank, more so than it was already. And we're going to go into the combat phase now. So we've got 3 juicy combats, one of them being a double, and hoping to do some major killage. Goblin combat phase, and over here you can see that this big troll attack killed the Fallen, so they were able to turn around and not be rear charged by wolves in the next turn, which is always nice. Down here, less success though, because both these units survived these charges. The Giant rolled tons of attacks, but then just rolled terribly with them, so you only actually did 1 damage, and then couldn't roll enough to waver them at least. And this unit didn't become waved either, they only took a tiny bit of damage from the Maulbeasts. So, going into Varangur turn 4, and there are charges open, for example on these damaged Trolls, and some nice counter charges lined up here, and there's always the ever-dangerous Herger, who's got to decide where to strike next. Varangur turn 4 so far, we're just about to go into combat, but before that you can see here, there's been a charge, the Fallen have gone into the damaged Trolls, the Wolves have gone into the undamaged Trolls, the Bruiser has been neglected though, and over here you can see of course counter charges on both these units here, as expected. Down a unit of Maulbeasts, as they were killed off by some nice long-range shooting. However, these Fleabags, despite taking damage from shooting, double 1. So they are going to be fine, and they're going to be sitting pretty close to that objective actually. So they might be able to hide themselves next turn and maybe be a real nuisance in the last couple of turns. So, going into the combat phase, this unit was Bane chanted as well, I believe. So they're going to have a slightly easier time taking out the Trolls than they would have done normally. So, let's see if the Varangur can do some killing. Well, Varangur combats went reasonably well. Over here you can see the Trolls are dead, and the unit Fallen have turned around to face this direction. The Maulbeasts were killed, as expected. The Giant wasn't killed, also as expected, really. And that's about it. So, going into the Goblin turn 4 now, there's not many units left on either side, especially scoring units. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, whether the Goblins can actually kill some of them off, because some of these Varangur units are heavily damaged. So we finished the Goblin turn 4 shooting phase, and it was quite fruitful because a Holy Hand Grenade and a Lightning Bolt did pretty much maximum damage to the Fallen, and they've wavered them. So that could be quite pivotal in this game. You can see here that charges were declared, the Bruiser and the Trolls have gone into these 2 units, respectively. Over here, the Giant had a bit of a dilemma on his hands, and he decided he was going to try and finish off this unit, because he had more chance of killing it, and then some really annoying little shooting attacks, the Diadem and a Lightning Bolt targeted this unit here. Got them up to 6, so not quite enough to get rid of them yet. And you can see over here that the Fleabag Sniffs are now hiding behind a hill very close to that crucial objective that I really want to get. So that could be very, very important come the end of the game, because the Varangur have nothing over this side of the table, but they do have some long-range shooting that's still alive over there, so not all over yet. And going into the combat phase now, so if I could wipe out all 3 of the units I'm fighting with some decent rolls, I'm not sure about being able to kill this guy with only 5 attacks, but it can be done. Let's see how it goes. Very successful Goblin combat phase in turn 4 here. The Trolls killed off the Wolves, as you would expect. I couldn't get rid of this guy with the Bruiser, but he did do maximum damage on it. So you can't ask for much more than that. And then the Giant made up the last turn when he rolled terribly, and he rolled amazingly this time, and completely obliterated them. He's now just staring down the Bloodsworn, and that's going to be an interesting duel to the death. I imagine the giant is about to get multi-charged again. See if he can survive that. So, scoring units that are left at the end of turn 4. The trolls and the troll bruiser and the giant over here for the goblins, and of course over in this corner the fleabag sniffs, and the Varangur only have the bloodsworn and the fallen for scoring points now. So only 2 units alive that can score points for the Varangur, and one of them is at death's door and wavered. So it's not looking very good for them at the moment under those circumstances, but you never know. If they kill a lot of the goblin units in this turn, which they have the potential to do, they've got some shooting attacks still left, then it could be close in the end. We shall see, going into Varangur turn 5 now. Varangur turn 5 in its entirety, and not as successful as they were hoping. So you can see here, there's been lots of characters parked in front of units attempting to cause blockages. How successful that's going to be, we'll find out shortly. Herja decided not to charge anyone, so she could use her infinite range healing ability to get rid of 3 of the wounds from this unit here, which is very helpful. They're not going to be wavered anymore shortly, unless they get killed in the next turn. This guy decided to use up his turn. He threw an axe actually at the trolls and didn't do anything. He's parked himself to try and prevent a horrendous double charge going in there, which might not be necessary, but we'll see. And over here, this was the disaster. Look at that, the bloodsworn. Well, they've sworn off blood at the moment because they actually did a few damage to the wizard, but I forgot to put the dice on him. But he became wavered as a result of that combat, but he took about 4 damage, didn't he? Then over here, the giants took some shooting damage from the invisible mage's conclave, but couldn't roll enough to waver him at the second attempt after the first one would have killed him, because of the inspiring presence of this flagget. So heading into the goblin turn 5 now, and lots of blood could be spilt now. If I can kill both the scoring units, it would be looking very, very bleak for the Varangur indeed, and they are quite a bleak people as it is. Goblin turn 5, and you can see the fallen have well and truly fallen. These trolls managed to take them out. The troll bruiser took out their inspiring presence as well, that they were maybe relying on. So that's this flank not looking good at all for the Varangur at the moment. Their remaining units are mostly down the centre now. So these guys are still just chilling here, but they're still wavered of course. And here, Herja took some damage from the giant, but not enough. This unit here that became wavered, these bloodsworn, that was as a result of lots of shooting attacks aimed at them. The holy hand grenade only did 1 of those damage points though. And you notice they've been blocked up with a fresh unit in front of them. This guy backed away, the wizard, and the flagget has taken his place because he's a bit more survivable, so had they not been wavered, it would have been more difficult for them to get through him onto this crucial objective here. So heading into potentially the last Varangur turn now. So we'll see what they can do, because over here the fleabag sniffs have hidden themselves behind the hill, so it's going to be very, very difficult for this guy to reach them, unless we get turn 7, in which case all could change. But at the moment the Varangur only have 1 scoring unit left, so it's not looking too healthy. Potentially the last Varangur turn, and obviously these guys couldn't do anything, these bloodsworn, because they were wavered. But over here Herja elected to charge the troll bruiser, and it may have paid off because the bruiser has now been wavered. So that could be bad news for him. Here, some shooting damage was put onto these trolls, but couldn't quite get rid of them or even waver them, which is potentially bad news. And then down here, this guy has positioned himself so that should we get turn 7, he'll be in prime spot to strike at this heavily damaged fleabag sniff unit. So at the moment, if it comes to turn 7, the Varangur that's still in it, if it ends on turn 6, then there's not a lot they can do because the sniffs are about to land on that. So it would be a goblin victory probably if it ends on turn 6 at the moment. The Varangur are holding this objective here though, so there's 1 point at the moment at least. So into the goblin turn we go. Goblin turn 6 is over, and the bruiser, due to being nimble, was able to pivot and actually go backwards towards this objective, so he's within 3 of it as the trolls just fall over on the hill. They moved over in this direction. In case it was a turn 7, they would have been able to charge the bloodsworn that were here, which are now dead as a result of massed shooting damage that was put on them by these units. Although the wizards didn't have to chime in, so they threw their lightning bolts at the mage's conclave, but didn't do any damage to it at all. So, as it stands, because the fleabag sniffs have moved to within range of this one, which is worth 2. So there's 2 points for the goblins, and there's also 1 point here as well. So that's going to be 3 points for the goblins and 0 for the Varangur if the game ends now. So 1 to 3, the game is over. 4 to 6, the Varangur are still in it. Here we go. It's a 2, it's over. Well, it was a close one. The Varangur in the end just ran out of units, and they couldn't kill everything. It really hinged because these guys over here survived on a double 1, which was nice. Although it wouldn't have taken that much more to kill them, but still, double 1-ing's never fun. And over here there were a couple of big waivers on the Varangur units that slowed down their plans as well. When they were running low on units, things becoming wavered is really bad. Herja survived the game though, as did the Mage's Conclave and that mage as well. So a few units left alive. The Goblins took massed casualties as well, The only scoring units left were the Sniffs over on the flank, and these Trolls and the Bruiser, and then this batch of really annoying shooting attack individuals, which probably were pivotal in winning this game, because there were so many Goblin units, so much chaff, that the Varangur couldn't really focus anything on these guys, because they didn't have that many shooting attacks of their own. It's all over, and the unnamed Mage's Conclave, which is invisible, have lost the ability to find the missing ingredient for their concoction, which means the Goblins are going to uncover it, and I'm sure they're going to do something horrendous with it. On its own, they will have no idea what to do with it, they'll probably blow themselves up, but that means that this guy is going to stay invisible for the foreseeable future. Did you get that? Foreseeable?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, a couple of early bad decisions by me, but the biggest bad decision was the charging in with my Mounted Sons to the chaff. I wanted to kind of set you up in a position where my two Fallen were attacking you if you'd come into the Mounted Sons. Now, I wasn't expecting them to be routed in one bout of attack, so that was really good rolling. Not knowing how good indirect fire was, that also caused me a few issues. Trying to get Herja over to there that wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, 2 direct hits from the rock thrower.
Yeah. And then, obviously, a couple of really lucky things on your side. So the double one over here, and then rolling for the grenade, getting 6s.
I think the grenade hit just about every turn, didn't it?
Yeah,
every turn it fired.
I think there was two rounds in a row where you rolled 2 6s for amount of hit. So
yeah, the giant did quite well compared to usual as well.
It was to be honest, it held up a lot of stuff in the middle there. So
the giant only had 1 bad round really, and then he survived a lot of shooting as well.
I think if I think the Mounted Sons were able to survive 1 turn, maybe this might have not. And then the Fallen as well. When you took these guys, if they'd have actually, even if you'd only wavered them rather than routing them, then I would have been in for a rear attack on these guys that actually made it over here in the end. So
it was difficult to get through all the Goblin chaff because, I mean, look at all these units that are dead. Just small units of Fleabag, more beasts all over the place, really cheap. And I think I had 20 drops compared to your 12. So it was really difficult for the Varangur to get those charges that they wanted early on.
And 4 of those drops were individuals. So, I mean, how many have you got?
Look at these individuals. These individuals probably did better than the Varangur ones for the points spent on them, I would say.
Absolutely.
They're just really annoying, especially the really cheap Flaggets with the shooting attack upgrades, just running around lobbing grenades at people, unleashing breath attacks, and just doing damage, but you feel like maybe you don't want to actually waste resources attacking them, because they're so cheap and they go down so easy. So if you had some small shooting attacks on them, maybe that would have taken them out, but there were other things to focus on because it wasn't going so well in the combats as well.
I think the positioning of them at one point as well, where you made sure that there absolutely was 0 chance of overrun, that was quite good as well.
Yeah, when you've got individuals, you can use them for so many shenanigans, especially Goblins at speed 10 on the back of these Fleabags. You can use them to prevent units performing hindered charges. You can block people with them when they don't expect it because you're so far away. And it's just a fun time. Moving 10 inches, doing a load of pivoting, and still throwing a grenade as well is a fun one. Okay, let's get a left-handed handshake right on the camera there.